flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. Shopping done, I'm sure everybody is. So hopefully you're doing good at that. Our roll call tonight, Mary Schmidt's not with us. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. And now we're down to the approval of the agenda. I just have a couple that I need to add to. Down, we're going to add the Christmas Eve office is closed. We're going to add that under administration under 8B8. And then also under 8B9, we're going to add the Costco membership for everybody to go shopping. We'll discuss that down when we get to that point. All right. Okay, all those in favor to approve the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion's passed. There's no presentations, and so we're down to public comment. Luke?
I have
Yes,
one
Luke.
point I'd like to get in my public comment. Oh, did you not call me?
Let me get Luke here, and then I'll go right back to you, Bonnie.
Sorry, I thought you
No
went
problem.
it this way. He was pretty straight on.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lou, L-E-W, Kidder, K-I-D-D-E-R. I'm actually from Scioto Township in Washtenaw County. I've been a member of the Roads Committee in Scioto Township since its inception almost 7 years ago. We have a lot of roads that are in very poor condition, and our township board decided they'd like to know why they were in such bad condition. We figured that out. There was no money. And secondly, what they can do about it. We've made some steps we've made some significant steps in Scioto. Last summer, I was asked to be part of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners Advisory Committee on what they could do about roads countywide. On this committee, there are 8 others. One of them is Dan Smith, who is your county representative. We helped the county come to grips with an emergency situation, and they enacted a 1-year millage, and for a specific list of projects. There's almost 68 miles countywide out of the 590 primary roads. Now the committee would like to go ahead with planning a long-term plan. We're thinking about a 10-year plan in which all the primary roads in the county would be brought up to grade. Now, we have no control over whether the board will actually, take steps that we recommend, but we're going to go ahead and recommend that. We would really love input from the townships. So I have brought you a 3-page memo, a database of all the primary roads in the township, and some information about the needs in other townships, so you can kind of see where Salem fits into the picture. I've asked you a number of different questions. One of them is I'd really like to have your input about what primary roads we should do first in this township. Is it 6 Mile? Is it 8 Mile? Is it Curtis? We'd really like that input. If the second question is, if you have primary roads, and forgive me, I didn't look at the chart. If you have primary roads that aren't yet paved, a number of the townships do, are you interested in putting paving into the works for those primary roads? And lastly, do you have anything else that you want to tell us? Please do. We can't guarantee that you'll get what you want, but at least we'd like to know what it is.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Fun,
And
yeah.
I'm headed for York Township, so
Okay.
I'm not gonna stay around. Thanks.
Okay, I would like to know if I FOIA the evaluation for the fire chief, will I get a point by point according to his job description evaluation, and will it be done by the whole board, as it says in your paperwork, that you guys are responsible for the board? I sent out I showed you where it was in the law and everything. Now I wonder if I will ever get one, because the one I got looked like a resume, and it came from the fire chief, it didn't come from the board or you. Okay, my next point is, I've had to readjust my schedule 5 or 6 times in the last week or so, because all of a sudden, within 1 day's notice, there's been a meeting that needed to be watched, and everybody should be watching these meetings to make sure that whatever goes on is brought to light. Well, I was at a meeting on one day, and when I looked as I left, there was another meeting for 10 o'clock the next morning, which I couldn't make, and it just makes no sense. If you're gonna hang them in the window, and that's the only place they're gonna be, you're gonna have 6,000 residents drive through this parking lot every day to make sure that they don't miss anything. At least they should. My next point is that at the meeting that I did attend and the one that I couldn't, I heard the audio from, and that you have selected 3 men to be lieutenant firemen, or it's supposed to be, so the group selected them. Well, 2 of them have just barely got off or have not got off of probation, and some of them don't live in the township, and the people that are still on probation smack is cronyism when you have somebody who come into the fire department as a friend of somebody's, who then is all of a sudden promoted. That's not legal. Cronyism is what put Kilpatrick and his friends in jail. And my last point is, I'm really sorry to see Mary Beth go. She was the only one that often had a dissenting vote.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Gary, it's been brought to my attention that you've been doing a lot of talking at the Salem store about personal business, people's personal business to other people. And part of it was my business. If you got problems or business with me, Gary, come and talk to me. Don't do my business at the Salem store with everybody else.
Okay. Sandy?
Right here I have the whole new ordinances that we just have passed and all of the standalone ordinances that are on the website. And when I'm looking at this, section 40.602 refers to a composting center. And it says under here, Salem Township Composting Ordinance number 97-7-1. Now I've looked all over. I can't find it on the website. I can't find it in any of my previous records regarding the previous ordinances. And I want to pose this to you. I think this is an excellent reason why we should not destroy any records whatsoever, because we all know that in 2006 there was a whole number of ordinance amendments that were passed by the Ruperti administration, and then Clerk Trent never made it never posted them into the ordinance book. There's probably other ordinances that the board has passed and that have never made it into the ordinance book. And if we start destroying records, they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone forever. And I see no reason why we need to do that. Memory sticks, any kind of backup is so minimal today. And when I asked someone in the township regarding a FOIA that I had, they said it's going to take the same amount of time as burning CDs. Now that tells me somebody doesn't understand the whole process. And I'm not sure that anybody on this board understands how minimal time and space putting those records to memory stick would be. And I'm against, and I think other people are against too, the destruction of records. And I know that Treasurer Converse is the one who put forth the motion to do this, so when we discuss it tonight, I'd like to hear his reasoning for that.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing, Gary.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, I believe trustee Dave Trent made a complete fool out of himself and the board in front of Salem Springs. I think the rest of the board should have a talk with him and try and control his actions, because they were totally ridiculous.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay, moving on to consent agenda, Mr. Wenzel.
I move that Salem Township approve the following consent agenda items. The minutes of last month's November 18th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Also the disbursements for November 2014 of the general fund. November check rosters including $80,878.99. That includes checks 2519 through 2591. We have disbursements in the escrow fund of $10,594.50. These are checks 1572 and through 1575. We had a total payroll in November of $45,814.69. We had electronic funds transfer paid to Paycor to do those payroll of $189.92. Also, the disbursements for the sewer fund, $15,935.43. This included check 1935 and 1936. For the month of December, we have invoices out of the general fund for $68,605.33. Invoices out of the sewer fund, $7,883.55. And finally, out of the escrow fund, $6,114. So do we have a second?
I'll second it.
John Daniel seconds. Any other questions on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda's passed. Down to budget amendments.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that Salem Township approve the following cost center budget amendments for this current fiscal year, 2014 through 15. In the Township Treasurer's account 101.253.715.001, the current budget is $6,900. We need to revise that to $8,230. Out of the Township Clerk's account, we have two classifications, 101.215.715.001. The budget right now is $0. We need to revise that to $1,150. And 101.215.977.000. The current budget is $1,500. We need to revise that back down to $720. These have to do with the health insurance. Both of the employees in the treasurer's office and the clerk's office are, as you know, the health insurance premiums have been increased. So we've had to revise this. So does anyone have a second?
I'll second that.
Connor second. Any other questions?
Mr. Supervisor, just as a note to Mr. Wensley, in modifying those cost centers, the overall budget for each cost center should be adjusted to reflect a revised cost center total, not just a particular line item.
questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion's passed. Okay, down to, accepting of trustees Schmidt's resignation. I'd just like to read you a letter to the Salem Township Board of Trustees. The purpose of this letter is to inform you of my resignation as a trustee from Salem Township, Michigan. This is effective as of Monday, December 1st, 2014. My schedule and obligations to my family have changed significantly this past fall and has resulted in an increase in demand of my time and attention. In addition to the needs of my family, I am pursuing medical care in 2015 to address issues that have been put off due to my schedule being too full. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you these past 2 years. Mary Beth has just been a great support of the township and also this board, and we're going to deeply miss her. When we first took office as new board, she was very instrumental in a lot of different things. One was, changing our website, just her encouragement, and she also was a part of the Salem Springs committee also, of ongoing issues with Salem Springs. She was part of that committee. And her husband also had a new schedule for his employment, where he is in China quite a bit, and so he doesn't, so she's got that problem also. So trying to talk her into stand, and but she loves Salem Township. She's got a great family. They've always been very supportive of the town, and it's been fun serving with her these last 2 years. So I will make the motion to move that we accept Mary Beth's resignation. And a second on that?
Mr. Supervisor, I'll support that with the indication that we accept the resignation as of tonight, December 9th, 2014.
Okay. Any other questions about it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And one more comment on that. I would like for the board members to submit to me, or if you have ideas of somebody to replace her. According to the laws and the clerk in Washtenaw County, we have 45 days to select somebody, to appoint somebody to this position to fill out her term for 2 years. So, I would appreciate any input that any of you would have on that. Okay, so we're down to the Public Act 152.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that Salem Township adopt Resolution 2014-12-09-01, which complies with the provisions of Public Act 152 of 2011, addressing health insurance costs for a public entity, and that the township exempt itself from those requirements from the state law.
I'll second.
Any other questions?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Supervisor, this is a carryover resolution over the last 3 years that the state requires that city and township governments require employees to pay a minimum of 20% of the healthcare cost. Ever since the adoption of that law, we have exempted ourselves from that requirement, feeling that if we are better suited to determine which level of contribution our staff covers, and currently we have a seniority-based system where a new employee, he does pay 20%, but as an employee gathers seniority, that requirement is reduced 2% a year.
Any other questions? All right, do we need roll call vote on this?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Converse,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker.
Yes. Okay, so we're down to the record.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the Salem Township approve adopting the general retention schedule number 25 to the Salem Township Clerk, item number 201, meeting notice and audio recording. Note that the audio and visual recordings of meetings in township body be made for the purpose of transcribing the minutes may be destroyed after 7 years of the meeting and the minutes are approved by the public body.
Okay, we have a second on this?
Second.
Discussions? Comments?
I'd just like to make note that due to the comment from the audience that this was legal opinion and there was kind of like a division of different opinions and taking one particular opinion and with that judge that we should keep these for at least 7 years.
Why not longer?
This is-
Let's just keep voice. Any other discussion up here? I think, Dale, what I recall, and you can refresh my memory on this, but a lot of the files and stuff that have been in the town hall, that I think there was a bunch of actually cassette tapes that for years and where to put them or whatever. And I think that's, I don't remember if that's how it came up or whatever, but still at the time, I think, because of legal issues that the township has had over the years, I just think that, I don't see why, because we have storage, we have a storage place, I would recommend that we just keep our files or keep our recordings. I know by law, we don't have to. I mean, it says that even after an audio tape, I believe, didn't the clerk tell, or somebody had mentioned that it's 45 days after, the audios are done for the clerk so that he can go over the meeting and as you're doing your minutes to make sure that you have everything correct, and after that, most townships do destroy them.
Right. The reason they do that is because the minutes become the official legal document. Anecdotal comments from individuals, us, doesn't matter. It all goes by what is described in the minutes, and that is the only document that is the permanent document. So the state of Michigan created that record retention schedule. We didn't create it, or Ed Plato didn't create it. The state of Michigan created it. So they do the same thing. So all townships have probably, they could rent a storage facility and they could store all these records for generations, but there's no need to because it's not a legal document of other than the recorded, the actual written minutes. So that's why the state created that law. So actually they have it for 45 days. We've stretched it out, if we want to go with this motion, 7 years.
But I guess my question is, what happens if, just for informational purposes? You know, maybe not just talking legal things, just something that you want to get clarification on.
Right.
That maybe is not in the public record. That would help me as a supervisor to say, well, this is actually what's on the recording, or whatever we have.
Here.
Not saying it's.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm
but-
just saying it doesn't take up a lot of room, but anyway, that's just my opinion on it. If anybody else has anything?
I think as long as storage is not an issue, why throw them out? I mean, if in the future the storage unit is full, then I can understand having to figure out how you're gonna weed it out. But there's a lot more that you can get from those recordings than what is in a meeting minutes, and it's so general.
Just so you know, all those things are foiable. foiable things, you may not want to have foiable things for years and years.
Oh, really? Okay. We
Yeah.
understand that,
Yeah,
on your
exactly.
piece,
Yeah, politics.
yeah, politics.
You can go back and look at what the last all our laptops were cleared, all of our laptops were cleared clean when we came into office, because they didn't want anything foiable. So, it's just the natural course of what happens. So, 7 years is
Just because they were in the
probably a
wrong
pretty
doesn't
good
mean you
thing.
gotta be in the wrong.
What's that?
Just because they're in the wrong don't mean you gotta be in the wrong.
No, I'm just
What are
saying.
you trying to hide by doing this?
It's nothing.
We're not trying to hide anything.
It is-
I agree with Gary. Keep them.
Well, let's, John, you have a comment?
It's interesting. In industry, in the auto industry, a lot of people are in the auto industry, I know that, but in terms of if you have an OEM part, you're supplying OEM, Ford Motor Company and part, companies have to keep and supply aftermarket parts for 7 years. That's the law. Well, not the law, but that's the understanding from OEM, so. But, as far as I'm concerned, we had a service come in here and do a lot of scanning of record.
Right.
So we should have all of that. But, to keep stuff hanging around year after year, it becomes a big mess. We all have garage sales and we all clean our closets.
John, that has nothing to do with politics.
But I understand that, but the thing is, going back to what Dale says, we got the meeting minutes, and that identifies what we talked about.
But you gotta have somebody that knows how to do the minutes. And you don't.
And so, as far as I'm concerned, that's my position, but we can discuss.
Anybody, other discussion up here?
I would like to make a comment about minutes. When you go on the website and you look in 1999, you look at all the way, every clerk from 1999, which are the historical minutes, they have not changed one bit. We're following the same identical format that's been around since 1999 with Marcia. Not changed. My comment.
You're still leaving a lot of stuff out of them too. Keep the tapes.
Okay, all right, well, let's
Gary,
take a
got more
vote on
hands
this,
up.
let's, move on. So, we have a second on this, why don't you just take a roll call vote on this, so we don't.
Yep. Okay. So, Converse,
Yes,
Daniel,
yes,
McLaughlin,
No,
Schmidt is absent, Trent,
yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker.
No.
So we have 4 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 absent. Yeah.
Okay. All right, now we're down to motion to approve. I will make the motion that Salem Township approve the bid from R&R Fire in the amount of $388,555 for the fire tanker pumper described in the fire department's bid specification proposal. Have a second on that?
Support. Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to amend that motion to authorize the 90% prepay option to receive $11,261 discount. I'd like to make some comments in regards to this. The prepayment option allows them to go back and finance, we get a discount by having the money available up front for them to buy the chassis from the Freightliner, where it will be coming from,
In addition to that, that money is protected by a surety bond. The whole purchase of this tanker is going to be covered underneath a bond. So if anything was to happen to SMEO, who is the manufacturer of this pumper truck, we would be getting that money as protected no matter what, and we will be getting our tanker one way or the other. So the money is not at risk being held by them. They are a company which they have offered us a 3% return on the money. So when we deposit that money into their account, we will be getting 3% on the interest, and we'll be getting 3% on any of the unused portion up to the point of delivery. So the money is safe. It is getting more interest than what we would be getting here, plus we'd be able to realize 11,000, but this also requires board action. In order to have this, to prepay this, I have to have board action to do that. The other thing that I would like to adopt here is, because there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of issues that have been surrounding this whole issue of the tanker truck. This tanker was authorized back in the previous administration, 2 years into the previous administration, had been budgeted for. Unbeknown to us, when I took office, I was trying to figure out where in the world did the money go that was budgeted for, and it never was set aside. What we did is, what I have done in the treasurer's responsibility is, we knew that this was coming up, and I have set aside $400,000 in the savings account. So the money is there, it is available as we speak now. But that being said, I think it's important that we include in here the whole issue of putting forth this 90%, so at least we can be able to see the $11,000. Otherwise, that bid is more, it's $399,246. So I have a second for you.
I'll support Mr. Converse's amendment, Mr. Whitaker.
Okay, so what would be the final
With
price
the,
on this?
with the original bid was $399,246,
Right.
and if we have the 90%, if we put 90% up front, at the signing of the contract, we'll get a $10,691 reduction discount. So the final bid price that we'll be getting is $388,555.
Okay, that's what I did say in my
Yeah.
motion.
But that would include the discount, but we need this motion in order to have that amount.
Got it.
So you are
Okay.
correct.
All right. Okay, do we need anybody, more discussion on this, the truck now? I know, I believe there was, well, Dale, you're on the
I'm on the
committee.
committee.
I think Jim's on the fire.
Yeah, Jim and
Car accident, they took off.
Jim and Eddie are all both on an accident run. We, just to give you a little bit a heads up of what we did, there was a lot of discussions when this whole issue of fire tanker / pumper or whatever came up. And what should we go? Should we go for tanker as what we have, because the truck that we'll be replacing is a tanker? And the general feeling was, and it was voted upon by the fire committee, the fire department, period. Because we asked them, we're not going anywhere until you tell us which we want. So they came back and recommended that they wanted the tanker pumper. So with that saying, well, that bridge was really crossed by the fire department themselves. So what the initial committee, and a lot of the people got together, a lot of the firemen got together to put together the initial bid. The initial bid then was started to go back out, I should say the specifications. Jim and Eddie were instrumental. There was other firefighters on there that was involved, but due to conflict of interest, they were not participant. Jim did go back out and was very, very instrumental in working with Dave Jensen, which is with KME. And they are the ones that really came up with a lot of the specs that went out, and subsequently, that's what was bid. The issue that really was come back up, and it was not part of the exceptions, but in the process of specifying this, they did specify a truck with a 20,000-pound front axle on it. And R&R or Smeel came back in and says, no, that's too heavy of an axle. You really want a 16,000, and I should say Jim and Eddie threw up their hands and says, no, they didn't meet spec. Well, what really happens here for the public here is if you go back and you put a suspension on it, is that as stiff as that one is, all you're gonna do is beat the dickens out of the truck and it's gonna fail. Durability wise, other parts of the truck will fail because the suspension is just too stiff. And in addition to that, that heavier 20,000 came with a 12.5-inch rim, and it was a 65 profile, so you have a big tire that's about 14, 15 inches wide. The 16,000 is a 9.5-inch rim, which gets standard. But the problem that we see here, or I saw, and I pulled out to their point here, is big wide tires on ice and snow are extremely dangerous. And it would not be good to run around here with a 16,000 pound. So in essence, what really here is we went back and we made a lot of discussions with the other suppliers, and going between a 16 and a 20,000 was really only about like a $600 and some odd difference. It was not a big difference. So we're not really talking big deals here, but what we have accepted here is that we were gonna back off, and we're still going to be talking with them whether we need to go with 16 or an 18. But the big thing here is to get away from those big wide tires, because they will be a killer when it comes to ice and snow. So any other questions?
I just have a question
Sure.
about, and this has come up, we've heard this, you know, R&R is one who's repaired our trucks.
Yep.
And the conflict of interest, I believe, and maybe I misheard what you said, but I know for a fact that the owner of R&R, I don't know if he's the owner, and his brother were also on the committee. Or were also on, on a committee that was pulling this together to put out a proposal for a bid to go out. So I just wanna make it clear that when these bids came back in, the committee went through everything, and everybody has bid on the same thing, and then you put your list together. I just wanna make sure and the public knows that that's how it was handled, and that there is no conflict of interest if we do buy the truck from him.
That is absolutely true, and that's exactly why I said earlier in my earlier comments that initially he was involved in the specs, but later on, in getting down to it, he was not consulted in the later specs. I will come back here and say is that if you look at the executive summaries, and there's copies, if anybody didn't, there's a copy of the executive summaries back on the back table back there. The next truck that was in line was this Rosenbauer. The EV Plus is the broker that came out of that. They were not that much higher. But when we found out what happened is the first thing we got an incomplete bid from them. They did not have everything in there. They did not, they saw it, they didn't see until after they submitted the bill. But we came back in, we said we could only take and put 31 foot, 7 inches or something like that into the bay, and their truck came out a little over 32 feet and a few inches. So they were over in length. When we went back and also in the specking out, they spec'd out a galvanized subframe off underneath the back, because we do have corrosion. We've had to replace the frame. We've had to do extensive corrosion repairs on some of the trucks that we have today. And what they did is they substituted galvanized steel instead of the stainless steel that was spec'd. We also found out that a lot of the lighting that we spec'd out, they put in a different lighting. We had to go through each individual spec, line by line by line, and we thought, well, it's supplier A versus supplier B, then how do you go back? And so you have to go back in, and we had to figure out, Jim had to do a lot of this stuff. He had to go back through and figure out how many lumens this one here, how many lumens this one here, and he had to go back in and actually do a lot of work to go back in here. Only to find out that what a lot of the lights that we specified, what they did is they were putting in the lights that were actually old lights that they even stopped making. they must have had an extra supply of them, so they were just throwing them on there. So that was an inadequate lighting substitution. The other thing that we found out is that the hoses that they had specified, as standalone items to go with the truck, some of those hoses were not, what was being spec. They were, the thing that's a little bit scary about this whole bid was, with the ZB Plus, there's none of these because in the bid spec, it says, do you meet or you not meet the original spec? And most all of these, they said that they met the spec, and in fact, they didn't. So we really feel very strongly that we didn't really know what we're going to be getting until you get the truck, and then it's too late. So we really have a real hard time going with the Rosenberg truck. And then the KME fully met everything, but then again, too, there, if you put the discounts in, there's a $25,000 hit with the KME. So that is the reasons why we are going with what we have done.
Okay.
I will recommend it.
Any other questions?
Do you feel that your committee has whittled down all of the want to the needs and, looking into the future? I mean, does it have every bell and whistle? Or has there been some discretion in what is put on them?
We have looked at that. I have given a lot of thought to that, and I've gone over the specs in great detail. And there were two areas that I came back and said, you gotta be absolutely crazy, why are you doing this? And one of them is the cruise control. It was like, why do we need to have cruise control when they're going out on a mile or two run? And the other one was the Jake brake. Jake brakes are put in there, you hear a semi going down the road and you're in brrr, well, that's a Jake brake. But the argument for the Jake brake is that does save on brakes. So you do get a trade-off, but on the same token is we're not necessarily sure that the cruise control. I've asked Jim, and he's agreed that when we go back, we can actually go back and actually, when we go into the contract negotiations, that can be ironed out. Because he agrees too that the cruise control is probably maybe not necessarily a needed item.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah,
we have-
let me, just one more. Now, I remember from a long time ago, when we were talking about the truck, thinking that we needed a custom truck because of how, short. Is that the case? It doesn't sound like it's the case now.
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then let's take a vote on this. On a roll call. Yeah, let's do a roll call.
We should vote on the amendment.
Like David seconded
Right.
the amendment, so we can just wrap it all into one motion.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have Converse,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Laughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker?
Yes. Okay, and just to kind of give you a summary, I don't know if any of you've seen, a couple things with the fire department on the truck fleet that we have. I don't know if you've seen that new, what do you call that, the pumper truck we got from Northville for $8,500, which is out there. The vehicle is really in great shape, so I'm really pleased that they did accept that offer. And if you get a chance to look at it, the other thing, as far as I know, the brush truck, is that what we call that, Mark, the brush truck again? The utility truck, the new one it's out there. So after you leave tonight, that has been replaced. And then Kurt's truck, what do you call that? I never remember the numbers, I'm sorry. The brush truck, There's a cap on it, the piece of equipment that was in there that they had bought, and I believe that's winterized now, that we can use this piece of equipment year-round. And the only thing I think about on-call fire department for our town, for getting the people when they need them to have these vehicles out there, the first responders, to be able to have some water on the vehicle to make sure whatever is, once they get there, the first responders, that they have some water to put on it, so. I don't know if this pumper truck that we've got, I don't know if anybody's investigating in that, and I think that we should, to make sure that, well, I don't know how many gallons that, you know how many gallons that holds?
2,500.
300?
250 or 300, I don't know.
What's that now? Which one are you
This is
talking?
the new one from Northville.
Northville's got 250.
All right. And my question is why can't we winterize that to have some water on it for first responders?
I don't know, we'll have to
And that just
investigate
makes
it.
sense. I mean, we should have some water going to the people if there is any kind of a fire at somebody's house. First responders. In other words, they don't come, these are the guys who are driving the trucks. There should be some water on them vehicles. So that's one thing I think that we should look into. And I think, and as far as putting monies away down the future to replace some of the older trucks as they get older and not just have it all come on us at once. So I think they've done a very good job doing this, so. Okay, moving on to fire department lieutenants. Mr. Trent.
Fellow board members, you'll recall that a few months ago, we authorized a request from Chief Rockwell to post for up to 4 lieutenant openings. The fire department lieutenant interview panel, which consisted of Chief Rockwell, Treasurer Congress, and myself, interviewed 10 applicants that had applied for the position over the course of the last couple of months. We held interviews last week with those 10 applicants, and the committee's recommendation at this time, after a review of those applicants, was to come to this board tonight with the intent of recommending 2 of those candidates to be promoted to a lieutenant position. After consultation with legal counsel, we have been advised that we should only extend an offer for promotion to one of those candidates. The 2 individuals that we were coming forward tonight to recommend elevation to lieutenant are Joseph Yurkunis and Bill Miller. Bill Miller is still technically on probation, having just been hired this past August. You'll recall that he was a new hire in August, came to us with a lot of experience from the city of Warren, where he retired from there as a battalion chief. So he has a wealth of experience and credentials. We thought he was an excellent candidate. However, at this time, we are not going to recommend his promotion at this juncture. So we're coming forward here with 2 motions. The first one is to elevate Joseph Yurkunis to the position of lieutenant. Yeah, we can give you that.
Let me look it up.
So that is your motion?
That's right.
Okay, you have a second on that?
Second.
Any other questions on Joe?
I have a question in regards to the gentleman. How do they stack up in regards to attitude?
These people that went through the interview process, they all had a great attitude. But we felt Mr. Yurkunis and Mr. Miller, because of their diversity of training and background, having served in larger departments, and having been involved in leadership positions or going through educational pursuits where they have had access to training and team building and leadership, were best suited for this position at this time. Obviously, at this juncture, we're going to put Mr. Miller on the back table and potentially other positions after union negotiations after the first of the year.
Don't get my questions wrong, I'm not talking, I'm sure they have their qualifications, but one of the key aspects in terms of bringing anyone on board would be their general attitude. People have negative attitudes, that cause, it keeps people from getting their jobs done and moving forward. We're here to move the township forward, we're here to move the department forward, so that's an aspect I give a lot of credentials to in terms of employers when we look at all these type of things.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else for Trent? May I add a few words?
With the pleasure of the chair.
If I may. All right. First of all, I think all the 10 candidates did a wonderful job in the interviews. It wasn't an easy selection. One of the criteria that we definitely had in the forefront is that team building and leadership skills. I think the nominations that were put forth here presented the greatest potential for leadership and team building. That was one of the scores that we looked at both in the resume submittal, in their answers to the questions, both oral and written. So that was definitely high on the committee, at least my review, and I think my colleagues would probably, or Mr. Trent and Mr. Commerce would also probably echo the same things, not to speak for them. But we definitely looked at that leadership, team building, bringing this department forward and into where we would like it to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you. Anybody else?
Can someone just say a little bit more about his qualifications? Like what department did he work for before?
If I may, so, great question. He is a full-time firefighter for Pittsfield Fire Department. He comes with many years of experience from a larger department. As a full-time firefighter, he basically works 24 on and like a couple days off. The beauty of that is being embedded in our township, coming from a larger department with much more resources than we have. He brings that skill set into a department that doesn't get nearly the runs that we do. So he can also be a mentor for some of our junior firefighters that don't experience the number of runs they do out in Pittsfield. So he's going to college. He's been in the service for a long time. I have his resume, but the highlights are that working towards this degree, 20 years on the department, and we're just fortunate that he happened to find his home in Salem Township.
So he lives in the township?
Yes, ma'am. Laura, did you have something?
Yeah, could I say something before you guys vote?
Sure.
Okay. On behalf of the fire department, nothing against any of these people personally, but it does violate our contract to hire them. Article 32, for promotions, applicants shall come with appropriate departmental seniority for each position. And anything else will only apply to fire chief, and this does violate it, and we will be filing a grievance as a union if you choose to go forward with it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Then, please take a vote. Roll call.
Converse,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker,
Yes.
Very good.
Mr. Supervisor, we have a second motion to bring forward relative to the lieutenant positions. One of the applicants for that position was current Assistant Fire Chief Eddie Roroff. And based on his years of experience within the fire department, Mr. Roroff, for a number of reasons, some of them being personal, decided that he wanted to apply for the lieutenant position. And what we would like to recommend as our committee to this board is that we extend an offer to give Mr. Roroff a lieutenant position, subject to a voluntary letter of resignation as assistant fire chief. And I'll make a motion to that effect, that we extend an offer for one of the lieutenant positions to Assistant Chief Roroff, subject to voluntary letter of resignation as assistant fire chief, where he would be stepping down from that position.
Okay, you have a second on that?
Second.
And we'll do a roll call on that one, if you don't mind, Mr. Clerk. Sure.
Converse,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Ricker.
Yes. Okay. Planning Commission appointments. I move that Salem Township approve the following appointment to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term beginning January 1st and ending December 31st, 2017. William J. Lawson, Jr. I don't know if most of you know Mr. Lawson, but he's been in the township for 16 years. He's also served as on the Board of Review. He's beginning retirement. He's been a retired attorney, and he's involved in many organizations, and I would like to recommend him to the Planning Commission. Have a second on that?
Second.
Any other discussions about Mr. Lawson? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Motion to approve now the zoning board of appeal appointments. I move that Salem Township approve the following appointments to the Salem Township Zoning Board of Appeals to complete a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2015, ending December 31st, 2017. Greg Millam, who is willing to serve in that capacity. That's a second on that?
Second.
All right. And then also, I want to make the appointment to also approve of Jim Quigley as the alternative for the zoning board of appeals, which he's willing to do.
I'll support that also, Mr. Supervisor.
Any questions on these two?
He would be the alternate?
Yes, Jim Quigley would be the alternate. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, down to the added item, the Christmas Eve being offices closed. I approve, or make a motion that we approve to be closed on Christmas Eve.
Support.
Any questions about this?
The whole day?
The whole day. We'll be open, of course, New Year's Eve because of taxes and stuff. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion's passed. Okay, down to the last is the Costco membership. Go ahead.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll provide some introductory comments, and then I'll yield the floor to Treasurer Converse. Today, we had the opportunity to have a representative from Costco here at the Township Hall to provide information to Dale and myself relative to the benefits of the township becoming a member of Costco, the potential savings that we could enjoy from the cash back plans that they have available. For the benefit of the board, in case you were not totally aware of it, and also for our citizens, we do spend a few $1,000s a year on sundry supplies that Chief Rockwell has undertaken. We can take that onus off of him, and one of the things that Costco provides for a corporate membership that we would avail ourselves of pending board approval tonight is that we can have a staff person take the fire department's inventory needs, make the order online, and they will deliver the products by 12 noon the next day. So it's free delivery. We get the cash back rewards from those orders. And in essence, because of the incentives that they're offering the first year, it eventually ends up being free. And I'll yield the floor to Mr. Converse to help explain some of those other benefits.
I'm sure a lot of you out there probably are aware, as I am a Costco membership, and I'm not saying that to promote them, but they do definitely have a lot of benefits when it comes time for purchasing gasoline. We get a 3% back on gasoline. We already have an agreement with Speedway, which is which would qualify, but I'm sure we already get a discount from them, so I really don't know how well that will work out. But it really does benefit us from the fact is that we do have to have, we get basically a Costco card, which is an American Express card, comes back in and they pay for the membership, or they pay for the card through the membership, so it really is not a no cost option to have the card. There can only be 2 names on that card. That's one of the big things. So we would have to determine who would have to be the point person for ordering and who would be picking things up and who would be paying things. But other than that, it really is, it's a benefit. We can get office supplies, we can get almost everything that we have just simply by calling them up, and like David said, they can deliver it within by 3 o'clock one day, they get it back by noon the next. And we do get a discount on it, and I think we'll probably be savings on the office supply stuff over what we have today. So paper and all of that stuff we'd be getting from them too.
All right. So, Mr. Supervisor, what I'd like to do is make a formal motion that Salem Township approve acquiring a Costco membership and designate Treasurer Converse and Clerk Wensley to develop the procedural aspects of who the designees will be for the credit cards and ensure that we're in compliance with our credit card policies.
So that's a motion. We have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Okay, so we're down to clerk's expenditure report, treasurer's investment report, and then we're down to the fire department. Mr. Rockwell. Sir, any comments?
Just real briefly, you do have November's runs in front of you. Again, medical's been the highest percentage of it. 2 things I'd like to report to the board. One, that we've got 2 vehicles that was authorized by the board. I would hope that the board members would have an opportunity, as well as the public after this meeting, to come out and look at the vehicles that we purchased. We have North Hills truck, which I think you'll find suitably impressed as far as the state that it's in and the condition that we got it for. And then, of course, we have the new Expedition that we purchased. It's not complete. They're still waiting for, I've got a front crash bar coming in because it's a 2014 model. They still don't have that fabricated for that vehicle, so that's coming in to be installed. But for the most part, there's some internal stuff that we have to do, but I think it's a good start. If you look at it, I think you'll be suitably impressed. So I hope you have the opportunity to look at what was purchased by the township. And it's already been put into service a couple times. And of course, the roads are getting bad for the winter. Unfortunately, that was where we were at, a pretty bad accident there with copies and M14. So please watch your speeds as the traffic weather gets worse. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple other things, law enforcement report we have. Under board discussion, I just need to make a public announcement about a special board meeting on the 16th of December at 7 p.m. here at the Town Hall to address the Salem Springs, the rezoning of the residential piece at 7 o'clock. So the big thing with the rezoning of the residential, when we've talked about it, is to be perfectly clear with legal counsel and everything, that we want to make sure the sewer and the water, them provisions are in an ordinance that makes sure that the township is safe and secure. And during them, you know, when they were talking about bringing the infrastructure, which we have talked about before, is a $20 million price tag, and who is going to be responsible for it. And so before the board passes to rezone this, if they do, choose to do, to residential, these provisions have to be put into an ordinance to make sure that we are protected. I'm sure most of you, over the recession that happened back in 2007, 2008, where there were townships that were left holding the bag after even letters of credit that people had put up. And, you know, our biggest fear, all of our fear should be as taxpayers, that this development, if it does happen, and the USD does happen, that the taxpayers are well protected so that we don't get left holding the bag if development doesn't come, or bankruptcies or whatever happens, as we've seen happen when the last downturn happened. So that's why it's important. They have agreed, and that and legal counsel will be presenting that to us to at a special board meeting to determine either to rezone it to residential or not. So that's at 7 o'clock on the 16th. So we wanted to, any other discussions about that, or any questions about this?
Just for comments, most public, I don't know if you watched Channel 7 News tonight, but they had it on Channel 7 News.
What'd you say?
Said it's coming. Pending court decision.
Right. Okay, and then before public comment, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and hope your families and that. It's been a great year, and you have a lot of blessings to be thankful for. Thankful for the board members that are up here, residents that live in our town, thankful for our town. I also, you know, once she gets mad at me, but I want to thank my wife for bringing in all the refreshments. For willingness, you know, we've been married 40 years, and it's started 40 years that she has the gift of hospitality, and always in our home, we always find something when people drop over, and I've learned to love. Yeah, and I learned to love that, so I appreciate it. She does that on her own. I don't ask her to do it, so I appreciate her willingness to make our meetings a little bit more durable. Because if it was left up to me, you would get nothing. Just teasing, just teasing. But we do wish that you have a great Christmas. Okay, public comment.
Just like to make a couple points of information from my perspective. I would, first of all, we've heard complaints that there's not enough dissension on the board. I, for one, would like to compliment Trustee Trent for his diligence, the work that he put in on the Salem Springs project. And I think your suggestions and everything that you made to the board were excellent suggestions and added value to that project. And I just, for one, wanted to say, make that clear. The other thing is I want to compliment the board on your decision on maintaining records almost all organizations, governmental agencies, companies, when you have minutes, the official minutes are the record to be kept, and those are the legal record. The other stuff is not an official record. And when it becomes foilable, it lends the chance of playing political mischief. And that's why you have minutes being the official record. There's a purpose for that, and I just want to thank the board for your decision.
Okay, Donnie?
I would like to say how disappointed I am in you people, because there was 5 hours of interviews, and they were on audio tape, and they were all together, and it doesn't seem like anybody on the board except Dale and David were here. They were here, but nobody else seemed to even look at them. They overlooked a man. You asked about how they had qualifications for leadership. They passed up a man who was a 20-year fireman who has, in his regular job, has, he said, 80-some men under him. And they just passed him over. I didn't hear his name mentioned once after his interview. So if you really want to know what the interviews were like, they're on audio tape. They're also on videotape, but they're officially on audio tape. Thank you.
Okay. Bud?
Yeah, just make 2 comments. One, on those tapes that you're talking about, the minutes, we have a life expectancy on tapes, so you might want to consider that for an amount of disc or something. And 2, this might be minute, but Sam's Club is closer than Costco.
Okay.
For gas, whatever, it's on Wixom Road.
Right.
Instead of 8 Mile and Heavy.
Okay, thanks, Bud. Linda?
I'm gonna break a long-standing rule of mine tonight, not to comment on fire department issues. But I heard tonight that we want to grow leadership within our department. What a slap in the face to the firefighters who have put in 10, 15, 20 years of their life to provide service for this community, for you to go outside, basically outside the department, and pick your promotions. And I have nothing against Joe Yakunis. He's a personal friend of my son. They've been friends since they were 5 years old. But I think this board was 100% wrong. I think you owe every firefighter from Salem who has put in time, they've trained, they've educated themselves. I think you owe every one of them an apology. And I personally hope that their grievance prevails, because I think you were dead wrong. Because what I learned tonight is not that we're going to grow leadership from within, but what I learned tonight is under Mr. Rockwell's leadership, we're going to go out and pick people who, and nothing wrong with being career firefighters from other departments, but don't be a paid-on-call volunteer in Salem, because you're not going to move up.
Yeah, Gary, I think they made an excellent choice tonight in who they picked for lieutenant. I know Artunis, and I think Eddie would be a good one if he wants to. I think you guys made an excellent choice.
Okay, anybody else? All right, well, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, folks.